So hey guys, today we're talking about going first and going second and why it's been like extremely problematic since, well, we'll say for the purposes of this video, at least since the beginning of Master Duel or the release of Master Duel. And yeah, I mean, there's been no good solution in sight yet all of these years, but all right, let's start then. So if we're going first, it doesn't really matter what we're playing, so I'll throw out a few options here. So we have the idea of we're playing combo. So for combo, let's go with, I guess, Altergeist. Sure. We just full combo, Altergeist combo, whatever. And now at the going second player, you probably lose. So now let's throw out another combo deck out there, I guess. So let's say, Salamangreat. Sure. If we are doing this matchup, well, there's only realistically two factors that we really need to consider. So let's say we go first with Altergeist. We just win because we just Altergeist combo. We go first with Salamangreat, we just Salamangreat combo, and then that'll beat Altergeist because they can't do anything against Salamangreat combo. And then what's determining if you are able to play at all going second against the other deck in this case? Then it'll just be hand traps. So now it's going to be hand traps versus the combo. So it's like, can we stop the combo with our hand traps? If yes, then maybe we have at least a chance, because you have to consider, oh, wait a second, my opponent also has hand traps. So let's assume maybe we have Ash Blossom Drift Spring here as the Altergeist player, so our hands are going to be like, well, this isn't actually a starter, but you know, we'd have something like Maliss with Ash Blossom, and then our opponent has like infinite impermanence with Gazelle. So yeah, I mean, you drop the Ash Blossom on Maliss, this ends on literally nothing. You drop Imperm on like Gazelle, that'll also end on nothing. But you know, if we are able to do like kind of a half board and then drop Ash Blossom onto our Salamangreat opponent, then even if they hit us with some sort of interruption, they might not have combo either. So that becomes like a little bit muddy, but at least in this situation you kind of have a fighting chance, maybe-ish, kind of, sort of. But I mean, like, you do draw an extra card, so maybe you can draw into an extender, except if we're going back to around the start of Master Duel in particular, your starter count was usually about, I'd say, 6 starter cards-ish. There weren't many decks that actually had 6 or higher. Well, 1 card starters, anyways. I think it capped at probably around 6. And in terms of 2 card combos, you had a bunch, but the math was like not as good, I guess, in the sense that consistency was lower because you'd be going for like 2 to 3 card combos actually instead of 1 card combos because your deck was simply not capable of them, or you didn't open the 1 card combo, I guess. So for example, with Altergeist, actually, as of currently, if you do not open Maliss is actually genuinely the only 1 card starter. This is more in line with the older decks, surprisingly enough. So if we open Marionetter, this is only combo if you specifically have Marionetter plus Maliss, or we have Marionetter plus Multi-Faker, and these are the 2 combinations, I believe, where it's combo, and maybe Pukri actually works as well. Let me think. No, Pukri is not combo actually. Yeah, it should just be Maliss plus Multi-Faker, and then you have Marionetter. And now for 1 card combos here, you only have specifically if you open your Maliss, which there's no like Rhoda or anything for. You just simply have to kind of open Maliss. I guess you could play a few cards that can search level 1 monsters, and then there's the idea of like 1 for 1, which kind of works. I mean, Not really. So if we combo going first, we essentially will beat combo that's going second most of the time. It's like just in your favor to a point where I would argue it's unfair. And if you don't have hand traps, then they just go full combo, and there's absolutely nothing you can do with engine because of how engine works, right? So the basic idea of how engine works is, so let's say we have Maliss, okay? When we normal summon this Maliss Dormouse, the end board on this is actually going to be something like, it should be, I believe, Apollosa, Allied Code Talker, and then maybe slap a Firewall Dragon, and then you have like the back row here, which will lead into an MTP07 banish, and maybe you can even slap a Heart Scripter somewhere into this as well, so that this single Dormouse, let's see, that's 2 Apollosa negates, Allied Code Talker Omni, Firewall Bounce, and then like the banish effect. So we'll go with, for the time being, we'll say generously like about 5 interactions off of just normal summoning Dormouse. But at the same time, okay, if you normal summon Dormouse and then I just immediately remove Dormouse from the field, right? Then, or just your ability to activate Dormouse, you just don't have the ability to do so anymore, then this is literally nothing. And that's basically the difference between going first and going second. So going first with Dormouse is insanely cracked. Now, if you were to go second with just a singular Dormouse, you're getting run over and you're not going to be able to resolve anything. So, for example, I think the Altergeist combo. So, let's just say we make Adminia, we have Extia, we have the Monster Negate with like Altergeist Protocol. It's around something like 5 interactions, I think, for Altergeist combo. And you die to like literally 1 interaction on the Dormouse. So in this case, we'll do probably the fact to Snatch Steal the Dormouse. And you have no normal summon now, so assuming you have like a White Rabbit in hand, you can't normal summon that. That won't do anything. March Hare can't really banish anything. But even if you could, if we had negates for this as well, like maybe if you were going first, this would translate into like 10 interactions or something. But going second, it's like, it's literally 1 activation, 1 effect. And your opponent is doing like the reverse to you, where essentially they're using their like 5-6 interactions against your like 1 card that would go into all the different interactions, which is pretty cooked, right? And that's kind of the issue with going first and going second in general, right? So if we break down like every single deck, it's some instance of this where you're getting overwhelmed by advantage, essentially. So you actually need some sort of cards to balance out for if you go second. But at the same time, so at the moment, I guess the cards that kind of do this are hand traps, and that means your opponent plays them also. But the issue really, I think, is that you're able to use these cards going first as well. So now, let's assume you're able to combo through your opponent's hand traps and their interactions here. Then now they have limited amounts of engine to deal with your like a bajillion interactions, plus your hand traps, which are also interactions. So if we were at 5 interactions before, now we're at 8. And our opponent, how many hand cards do they have at max? 6. And how many of them are actually activatable? And then there's the idea of, okay, what if you dropped hand traps and it didn't stop your opponent's combo? And now you're still staring down 8 cards, but now you're actually left with like 3 engine cards to stare down like 8 interactions. The game is just completely lost. So then we can get a little more nuanced here, and then we can go like, all right, so if we want to play around our opponent's hand traps, then specifically just playing around the hand traps, so that'd be like a control deck or stun, so something along those lines, then we would not have to worry about like potentially infinite impermanence. So that would be like just a deck with a bunch of skill drains and whatnot. If we flip over skill drain, infinite impermanence, Ash Blossom to a Spring, those cards don't really do much to a skill drain. So yeah, it's you're kind of chilling in this regard, I guess. And you're able to then not have to deal with the 3-ish interactions from your opponent's hand traps. And this applies to going first and going second. So if I set 5 pass, my opponent, technically the only cards that are going to be useful for them will be their engine cards, because the hand traps are going to be useless here. So maybe they have like 3 usable cards. And then we are going second. Same thing still applies because the hand traps are still not as useful. But in this case, we're looking at like, if we're going second into Alter Guys, we'll say they set up 5 interactions. If we're going against Alter Guys going first against something, we can still snipe down the Maliss with our 5 back row. And it's still the same kind of issue now with going first, even if we swap over to control, where we have like 5 interactions and our opponent only has so many cards they can activate. So yeah, no matter how we spin it, you're kind of cooked. And with stun, it's literally like a little bit different, in which case you have a bunch of, well, you know how we said Maliss drop down, maybe we'll say generously 9 interactions off of normal summon Dormouse. I don't think this is the case necessarily, but we'll say that's the amount just for fun. Okay, so Maliss has like 9 interactions. You know how many negates skill drain technically has? Infinite, because it's continuous and it never goes away. So it could negate 500 effects that you're trying to activate on the field, or 5,000, 5 million, 5 billion, 5 trillion. We could keep going all day, I guess. It's literally an infinite amount of monster negates, I guess, which is kind of broken when you really think about it, I guess. But you know, that's just a little bit muddy. And that's like kind of where stun cat fits into this, where you do, or control decks, where now with specifically hand traps, they do nothing. So now if we were to reverse things a little bit and think about, okay, how do we counter control decks? Then we have the idea of backer removal. So then, you know, we can drop RP's Feather Duster, and this will wipe out every single interaction in your like set 5 pass deck. And this includes with, for the most part, stun decks, unless you open Solemn Judgment, I guess. Or like we can drop a red reboot potentially, I suppose, as well. And that could do the job. So yeah, it gets insanely muddy, insanely quickly. So let's see, what's the next thing on the list here? So the problem with running backer removal is now that, you know, ties back to combo as well, where if we have backer removal, what does this do against combo? It doesn't necessarily do anything. So if your opponent is doing just a full-on monster combo, then this will do nothing. So this could be, for example, like a Fiendsmith, and this is kind of RNG, but you know, Fiendsmith combo will just say we'll drop like Fiendsmith combo, then we end on high Wave King Caesar plus big Appaloosa or something, and that might be good enough for us. And then Duster does nothing, so that's where you would need hand traps or board breakers. And if we go with specifically a board breaker like Raigeki, this does nothing against set 5 pass, which is frustrating, of course. And then you have to consider it's like best of 1 format, where it becomes like problematic again. So okay, next we have to consider, I guess, from this point, how can we possibly balance out going first and going second? Because obviously, very obviously, I guess, going first has just such a big advantage over going second. And then we can finally bring out the going second decks that are designed specifically for going second and allowing your opponent to go first and set up whatever they want, and then just kind of breaking through those boards and OTKing. But you know, they still have consistency issues as well. So for example, with back row decks, you just need to hard open back row removal. And if you don't open it, you'll just lose because, yeah, the math won't check out. So for example, if we're playing, we'll go with Tenpai. You have maybe normal summon Chundra. I'll snipe Chundra with like, I don't know, just some form of removal. You'll try activating maybe Sangan Summoning. I'll be able to potentially negate Sangan Summoning as well. And then the rest of your cards might be hand traps, and those do nothing. And now you have to also draw another starter while I amass advantage, and you just have a bunch of dead draws. That's like one possibility. And then if we play board breakers, if your opponent just hard passes and does nothing, or with some hand traps that need to build advantage, like for example Maxi or the Mulcharmies, those are just Giga Dead. And then I can just drop a single hand trap on like a normal summon Pydra, like Ash Blossom on Pydra, and then it's cooked. Pydra does nothing. So yeah, that's kind of how I see things going at least. But you do have the idea of being able to take out like a lot of, I guess, interactions with some of the powerful cards in this game, like Super Polymerization, which can't be responded to. And then we have Forbidden Droplet, which you can't respond to. But also at the same time, you can play all these cards like going first and kind of just throughout the game in general, which becomes like kind of problematic because, question, do you think Tenpai likes getting hit by Forbidden Droplet or Super Poly? Well, no, you would need backer removal to remove those before you're making your play then, if you opened your backer removal. So if we play like Harpy's Feather, Duster, Lightning Storm, and Heavy Storm, there's only a 30% chance we open one of them, which is not great exactly, I guess, because 30% of the time, we're not opening it frequently enough if we're just playing exactly into back row, but you're not just playing into exactly just back row. You can play into combo as well, which makes things like very muddy, I guess. So idea of like stun then would completely cook Tenpai unless you hard open backer removal. And even if you did open hard open backer removal, if we're looking like pre-hit stun, I guess you could run 3 Solemn Judgment. So for the same odds, we have to open Solemn Judgment. You could also open 1 piece of backer removal, which we can then just negate. So that's a problem. And then also, Tenpai, sure, you can break my board, okay, but you're not going to be able to lethal. And then now modern decks at the moment set up follow-up. So we'll go with, for example, Snake Eye. So you have original Sinful Spoils in the graveyard, and then whatever end board you end up making, and then Promethean Princess in the graveyard as well, which can come back and kind of snipe you whenever you try to perform a special summon, which is rough. And also, Flamberge floats into the other guys, which means Promethean Princess is live most of the time. And then Promethean Princess can bring back another fire monster next turn, allowing you to go full combo again if you weren't going to original Sinful Spoils and go full combo again anyways. So yeah, you have pretty guaranteed follow-up. And also when you reborn the guys, they also search cards. That can grab you more follow-up with Snake Eyes here, so yeah. And then with your Tenpai cards, you would die to like 1 well-timed hand trap basically. So that could be like normal summon Pydra, we Ash Blossom the Pydra, normal summon Chundra attack, trying to attack into a guy or something, Imperm onto that Chundra, now it goes to the graveyard, potentially. And then that's cooked, and you're still left with nothing. But maybe you do open like the stones, you have the hand, you break through the going first board. But honestly, I think the going first decks still have an advantage over the going second ones for like a variety of reasons. So yeah, I guess the main issue here is that, you're able to convert cards from like a card that would be, in this case with Maliss, it would die to 1 interaction, to a card that drops 5 interactions. And then your opponent is also playing cards that are similar to this, where you have like a card that dies to 1 interaction, but it also becomes like 5 interaction. But you know, if your opponent has like 5 interactions or whatever, that's an interaction for like every single card in your hand, making it pretty impossible to play against or do anything about that. To the point it's like, what are you supposed to do about that? I guess it's just kind of, I guess, unfair. And the only way that you could make the game even, I guess, is to just compare if you have better like hand traps at overall than your opponent, or like whose hand traps are better into who. So it feels like right now we're playing a game of, can I go first? And then you're comparing hand traps. That's how I would sum it up, I guess. So the game is not that complex, I guess, to an extent, where it's just like, I try combo, you try hand traps. If hand trap work, then I'll probably lose. And then if hand trap don't work, you'll probably lose. And you can simplify the game like that, basically. So in other words, you could say like, uh, first step, did you open combo? And then if open combo, can you combo through hand trap? If answer to both these questions is yes, then my opponent probably wins, regardless of like what engine I have or what other remaining techs or whatever I have. You'll probably lose. That's just how it goes, because the math ain't quite mathing out here. So for example, we'll go with Dishtira, and let's just pretend Reinhardt doesn't have Macrocosmos. Okay, so we'll drop, the end board is something like this. We should have pretty much just these 4 consistently. You can get a little bit further, but yeah, for the most part, it's these 4. And we have the idea of just, even with Arisart plus Fenrir, that this can just be completely unplayable if we just have these 2 as removal before we even consider like Unicorn. And this is like technically one of the weaker kind of boards if we just disregard the fact that this is Macrocosmos effect. So let's just go through a quick sample right here. We'll go with Altergeist. Okay. Normal summon Maliss. I will banish Maliss on normal summon, and then none of these cards actually work for going second. They don't do anything anymore. And then with Salamangreat, I believe, we have something like similar-ish. So let's say we start with, let's go with Gazelle, I guess, is the best starter, right? Let's see if I can find Gazelle. Normal summon Gazelle, I believe. It's usually Gazelle and Spinny. You control a Salamangreat card, yada yada. If you control a Salamangreat card aside from Spinny, you can special summon it. Okay, so on normal summon Gazelle, I want to Arisart, banish Gazelle, and if you have an extender somehow, then it'll probably activate in hand, I think, with its effect, and then I'll banish that with Fenrir. And it's just like 2 pieces of removal. Then your deck just can't play anymore, and then you lose. And of course, this isn't like the strongest end board by any means, but yeah, there's actually a macro effect as well on top of this, so maybe you can't play under macro at all either, so it's like kind of cooked. But yeah, going first, essentially, your cards are designed to go first, so when you're using them for going second, it's like, I guess, trying to well, how would I say this? I know. You're trying to basically use a knife to turn a screw. I mean, like, you can do it technically, but it's like hard, it's difficult, it's not efficient. You'd much rather use like a screwdriver for turning a screw, right? Because it was made for it, and it's much easier and more efficient. But like, a single screw might be doable with a knife, but like when you have to disassemble like a whole contraption or just like a giant piece of furniture or a robot or something. I don't know, just picture something big here with lots of screws and moving pieces, and you have a knife to disassemble it, but it's just not really working out here to the point where you'd be better with maybe like a hammer to kind of break it down, maybe this analogy isn't like that great, but maybe you get the idea here, right? Whereas like going first, the knife is better here, I guess. In this case, you just stab the person trying to build the contraption, you know? Uh, I'm now starting to think this analogy wasn't very good, and I should come up with another one. But okay, going first, you're essentially using the cards as they were meant to. Going second, you're not really. Like Altergeist, Maliss, it does have this card can attack directly line or whatever, but yeah, I mean, Kashtira Unicorn going second is actually pretty laughable, right? So we special summon Unicorn, then what? Even if you add Theosis, if you add like Earth, it's not really doing that much, honestly. And then if we're going first, we will end on like Fenrir, Arisart, Shingra, and a little bit more, and be able to like 5 monster zone lock you, and you just don't have access to any monster zones anymore. That's possible, I believe, off of just normal summon Unicorn. But going second Unicorn, that this will die to like 1 interaction. So pop Unicorn, gone. Didn't even activate, didn't do anything. Pretty much just going neg 1. At least you didn't normal summon, I suppose. That's the one upside for this card in particular. But yeah, basically, majority of decks at the moment are built for going first, but the game does have a going second aspect, which I feel like isn't getting like as much love as going first. So we are getting a lot of cards in general that are just the majority of cards I'd say we're getting are for going first and not so much for going second. And also, not only are we not getting going second cards, we don't really have good cards for specifically going second and nothing else. So for example, with the Dominus cards, you could argue these cards are great for going second, but they're also great for going first, of course, where you set up your end board and then you still drop these on the going second player. And this applies to Bestials as well, where, Bestial. Magnemite can be pretty good for going second, I guess, like Resolve Magnemite. Grabs like Rebellion, grabs Druisworm. We have like Random Regain, get a draw, banish 2 of our opponents like lighter dark monsters overall. But also at the same time, we flip this on its head going first, and it's like, okay, we start with Rebellion, grab Magnemite, grab Branded Regained, and then we get a draw, and then we have the removal effect on Druisworm, plus all of the advantage we just built off of this 1 card. So it's not really an exclusively going second card, which I feel like is kind of a problem, where we have cards that are for going first and second to the point where it just ends up oppressing once again the going second player, because there's not more merit in any of these cards for going second versus going first at the moment. So let's do the math like this, I guess. We'll just do a hand. So we have, let's say, Kashtira Unicorn here, and then we'll grab just a few hand traps, I guess. So we'll go Ash Blossom, and then we'll go grab, I don't know, let's go with triple Imperm to just simplify things, and then we'll go with, for our last card, let's see, Crossout Designator, I guess, is sufficient, yeah. So Kashtira Unicorn will assign a value of 5, because this will like transform itself eventually after combo into like 5 interactions, and then we have like Ash Blossom, Joe Spring, Infinite Impermanence, like these 3. So that's like interaction number 6, 7, 8, 9. And now that this is 9 interactions. going first. Now we translate this to going second, and it becomes this is like one activation that your opponent can negate destroy, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's like half the amount of interactions, but this would still be considered a very good hand. And if we were to kind of change the hand up a bit more, it'd be even worse for going second. And this is like among the best things you can hope for with kind of like, I guess, going second. So if we are against specifically a control deck, then the amount of interactions we have actually drops from 4 to actually deadass 0. So that'd be like 0 interactions with this hand, right? And it only takes 1 interaction to just effectively kill this unicorn. And then this converts into nothing. So that's the duality of going first and going second, I guess. Where the math, like, I guess it'd be easier if I maybe had a visual for this or something. But yeah. Going second basically just sucks, and it's always kind of sucked. I guess we could have brought out like old examples like with eldlich, Tri Brigade, whatever, but I barely remember what Tri Brigade does at this point. And Fam Knight's kind of like, eh. I think that can put out maybe like at least 4 interactions, surely. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.